I've used my fair share of keyboards over the years. So many so that my wife often jokes that we basically run a miniature Radio Shack out of the house, due to me selling out-of-favor mice and keyboards to our friends and family. But over the last few years, I've been really happy with my Drop Signature Series Space Race. So when Lowfree reached out and asked if I would be interested in trying out their new low-profile gasket mount keyboard, I didn't expect much, but I figured I've never tried a keyboard like that, so why not? But man, has this keyboard surprised me. So let's talk about it in today's video. Lately, I've been watching a bunch of Peter P's Sonos videos here on YouTube, and if you haven't checked out Peter's channel, I highly recommend it. I'll have a link down in the description. One of the really unique things about Peter's videos is he starts each of them with the conclusion, so that if you're really busy and you just want the core information, you get all of that and no fluff. And then for those who want the extra details, they can stick around and get those. And we're going to try that out in today's video. Let me start by saying this video is not sponsored. Lowfree did send me this keyboard out for review, but it has no impact on this review. I've been using the Lowfree keyboard for the last 2 weeks, and the typing experience has really impressed me. The low profile nature of the keyboard is really comfortable, and I type for long periods of time and really enjoy it. I'm also a lot more accurate than I was on the Drop Signature Series Space Race, and all of that makes for a really enjoyable keyboard at a $149 price point. So for those of you who that was all you needed, I'll have a link down in the description for the keyboard. But for those who'd like to know a bit more, stick around and I'll go into more of the specifics. So we should probably start with typing feel, which is ultimately what I think is this keyboard's strong suit. It uses a unique switch, which is this new low profile Kale Palm switch. According to Lowfree, it is the first of its kind in both a low profile and a palm material switch, and it's a blast to type on. It's a very different experience to the Drop Signature series. I'll put them side by side so that you can kind of get a feel. But the biggest difference is the key travel. The Drop is going to have, I think, what you think of as a normal MX style key travel, and then the Lowfree uses this new low profile switch, which still has plenty of key travel, but not nearly as much. And for whatever reason, I find that much more enjoyable to type on. I type a ton. I am a programmer and a designer, and I spend all day at my keyboard. This has been such an enjoyable typing experience. When I first started using this keyboard, the shape was definitely a bit different than what I was used to. I had been using these MT3 style keycaps, and they have a very unique shape. I don't know if you'll be able to see that on the video, but very different. They're very deep and your fingers kind of sit in the grooves. And this low profile keyboard is about as opposite as you can get from that. They are incredibly flat and there's not a lot of difference in altitude from one row to the other. The keyboard has almost this little bit of an arc to it. It's very subtle, but this middle of the keyboard arcs up just a little bit. And when I first used it, that felt a little different. Not necessarily bad, but just a bit different. But from the first hour I used the keyboard, I felt like I didn't miss keystrokes. And that's partially the flatness of the keys, and it's partially that there's no gaps in between the keys. There's a larger striking area on the keys, and I've really, really enjoyed that. The other thing is it's just a very smooth keystroke. Lowfree claims that this palm material is the smoothest that you'll get. I have no idea if that's actually true or not, but it's very, very comfortable and very, very smooth. The biggest thing is when you press the key, you know that you've completed the keystroke. It's got a nice little bump in there. It's not a huge panda bump, but you know when you've actually finished the keystroke. And it's just very soft and cushioned. And when you're typing for long periods of time, it's really enjoyable. I would say if you've tried out the new MacBook Pro keyboards, not the butterfly switches, the newest MacBooks that are the thicker MacBook Pros, the keystroke is like a longer version of that with a bit more of a bump. So if you're sometimes at your desk and you're sometimes on the go, this makes for a very easy transition between the two. The combination of the flat keys and the large hit area means that moving between those two keyboards is really easy to do. This is basically a more comfortable version of that for long typing sessions. And so that's probably a good segue into look and feel, which is, I think Lowfree was looking to target MacBook users when they came up with the look and feel for this keyboard. It has a fairly professional look, and the black version, which is the one that I've got here, mirrors the MacBook Pro keyboard quite significantly. It also comes in a white keycapped version, but I think everything else about the keyboard is exactly the same. The base of the keyboard itself is built out of aluminum, and you can kind of make up your own feelings about how you think it looks. On the back side is what I believe is a battery compartment. I'm actually going to leave this unplugged so that I can move it around a little bit easier. The back part has what appears to be a battery compartment, and then they have these two legs that are in a different color. I assume they're also aluminum, but just in a different color. It's got 4 feet that keep it solidly planted, and it's got these 2 side lights that put a little bit of glow on your desk. I'll show you those in a second. The keys are not backlit. There's a light on the base of the keyboard, but the keys themselves are solid and doesn't shine through. It's got this little metal emblem on the edge, and it's a nice little touch. The keyboard itself is not all that heavy, at least not compared to something like the Space Race. The Space Race is an absolute tank and is hefty in hand. I would say the Space Race probably weighs about 3 of what the Lowfree weighs. But at 150 bucks, I don't think you're expecting something that's built like a tank, or at least you shouldn't. So let me plug it back in, and so that you can see the actual lighting. I'm actually going to turn the lights off here so that you can see what's going on. The lighting on this is not the brightest. Let's bring the Space Race over here and let's see if we can get a lighting comparison. I'd say the Space Race is probably about twice as bright as the Lowfree, and that just is what it is. Again, I think if lighting and RGB is what you really care about, then this is probably not the keyboard for you. But again, it's a good showing. If you just need a little bit, I think you'll be fine. The other difference here is the Drop Alt is going to have lighting all the way around, whereas the Lowfree has those 2 lights, one on either side. And so that's what that looks like. Probably worth talking a little bit about the customization here. There is no software associated with this keyboard, and so everything that you do with it is controlled directly here on the keyboard. So if you want to change the lighting, you hold this function key, and then you can use the right arrow to change the color. These are all the colors that you have. So I'm back around at white. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there are 8 different colors in here, and then you've got a few different looks. So this is solid. This is breathing. This is off. And then it wraps back around. Solid, breathing, off. And those are your lighting options. As far as the backlighting on the keyboard, it uses macOS's built-in lighting as far as I know. So if I hold function, I can make it, I think there are 4 brightnesses, including off. So off, low, medium, high, off, low, medium, high, higher. Okay, yeah, there are 4. And so that's where you're at on lighting. All right, I'm gonna turn the lights back on. So here's one of my nitpicks with this keyboard. You've got screws here across the bottom, and then you've got the same thing on the other side. Turn it off so I stop pressing keys. You have 5 this way, but you only have 4 the other way, but you kind of see the same issue on both sides. Because there's not a 5th screw here, there's a little bit of flex where the keyboard's trying to come away from itself. I think it just needs 1 more screw here. Either that or just the internals are bent. I can't really tell which. You don't feel any of this when you're actually typing, but for something that you're gonna hold and feel every day, that's a little bit of that price point that you're feeling. I guess for comparison, just the Mass Drop Alt is 1 solid piece and like there's no flex or anything here. Just something to be aware of. Not the be all end all, but again, the typing experience is so good that I'm willing to overlook it, especially at this price point. One other thing that you should be aware of about this keyboard is it uses a gasket mount. And so all the keys are actually mounted into that gasket that sits in the base of the keyboard. When I first got mine, it was shifted over to the left ever so slightly, and especially on the cap lock and shift key, if you pushed really hard, you could sometimes feel the key brushing up against the edge of the keyboard. At first, I thought that this was a manufacturing issue, but after spending some time with the keyboard, I actually think it just was shipped on its side and the keyboard got dropped in shipping and that shifted, because I realized if you pressed on the key, you could actually slide the gasket back into place, and it hasn't moved ever since. So if you do get this keyboard and it does feel a little off center, know that you can carefully slide it back into place and it'll stick. It's not manufactured wrong. It's just the nature of this keyboard. So don't let that spook you. It definitely threw me off a little bit when I first had it. So across the top here, you'll see this three-way switch, and it has off, it has on, and it has Bluetooth. And I'm not really sure why there's an off and an on. It seems like when it's plugged in, it could be on, and you could switch it to Bluetooth when you want, but maybe someone understands why it has to be a three-way switch, but it's not clear to me. Let me know down in the comments. Although I typically run it in USB mode, I actually have really enjoyed the Bluetooth functionality on this because this keyboard has 3 different Bluetooth slots. Something that I've not yet experienced, which is you can have it registered with 3 different devices and switch between them with a single keystroke. So all you need to do is flip on the Bluetooth, and then while pressing the function key, if you hit 1, 2, or 3, that will load you into one of those slots. So 1 is the Tab Ultra C, 2 is my iPad, and 3 is this MacBook Pro right here. And it's really nice to be able to jump between those 3 devices, especially if they're on my desk. Which again, you don't think you'd run into very often, but since I've been playing around with the iPad as a typing device, it's actually come in really handy. So just note that's a capability if that fits into your use case. So you'll notice that this keyboard has both Mac and Windows symbols on it, and that's because it supports both. Out of the box, it's going to be configured for the Mac, but it's a single keystroke to switch between them. This actually threw me off a little bit because I use this as my work computer on a Mac, and then I game on it at night. And I noticed that the Alt key was mismatched on here, and I had no idea what was up. I actually was convinced that they had programmed it wrong from the factory. But it's actually that there's 2 different profiles on the device. By default, again, it'll be in Mac mode, and it'll have Command, Option, Control. But if you'd like to switch it into PC mode, if you press Function and N together, you'll then be in PC mode, and that'll become Win Alt. If you need to switch it back, just press Function M, and then you'll be back in Mac mode, and then Command, Option, Control. Just be aware of that. It threw me off a little bit until I knew that. Next up is customization, and this one is a little bit of a mixed bag, and so if this matters to you, pay attention. So all of the software for this keyboard is on device. There's no external software, and there's no firmware flashing. So what is here is what you get. No QMK, nothing like that. So if QMK is really important to you, this is not the keyboard for you. With that said, you can continue to use carabiner elements if you want to move around some keys or anything like that. So know that you're not completely stuck, but if QMK is your standard, this isn't it. Similarly, the effects that are on the keyboard are what you have. There's no colored backlight on the keys themselves. You do have a colored side light here on the bottom, but you get the 8 colors that come on it and the 3 effects, and that's it. So if you want something really, really custom and this is an expression of you, this is not the keyboard for you. This keyboard does use a standard keycap. It's a standard MX style keycap that you can put on here. So you can change your keycaps all you want, no problems there. The switches themselves are a bit custom. Again, they're MX style based, but the pinout is a little different. Let me see. A lot of times when you pull these out, the switches come out with it. Yeah, there you go. So there's your backlight, and you'll see the pins. Let's see if I can demonstrate this for you. The pins are mirrored. The switches are hot swappable, but as far as I know, or at least at the time of this review, the only switches that you can actually put in it are these Kale Palms. So those do come in 2 different modes. You can get linears or you can get tactiles. In this case, I've got tactiles. But just know that you're not going to be able to put any switch you want to put in here. That said, that's not a bad thing because the switches on this keyboard are amazing. And that's why I've been using this keyboard. Last up, pricing. This keyboard, as of the time of this review, is going to be selling on Kickstarter for 149 bucks. And let's talk about that. I think at 149 bucks, it's a really good deal. I spent a similar-ish amount of money on this And Pro. I think this was like $109. And this Lowfree keyboard is a ton better than this And Pro keyboard. I mean, just... yeah, that's all I really have to say there. Again, I think at 149 bucks, It's a great keyboard. I think you're getting a lot of value for that 149 bucks, and you're getting an excellent typing experience. If you're looking for a truly custom keyboard that you want to change a ton, I don't think this is going to be the keyboard for you. But if you're just looking for a great typing experience that's going to be low effort, low maintenance, really convenient, looks good, I think for 149 bucks, it's great. When we compare it to the $300 that I spent on the Drop Signature Series Space Race, again, I think this keyboard feels a lot more premium, but I will say ever since I've had this Lowfree keyboard, I haven't typed on this keyboard since, because the typing experience on the Lowfree is just far superior to what I've had on the Drop. Your mileage may vary. This may just be something personal for me. My accuracy when typing and my comfort while typing has gone through the roof on the Lowfree. So those are my thoughts. If you're interested in picking up the Lowfree keyboard, use my link down in the description, as that helps support the channel. Other ways you can help support the channel are by liking this video and sharing it with others. While you're down there, would love to know what you think about the Lowfree keyboard down in the comments. And also while you're at it, this was my first formal keyboard review. Would love to know your thoughts and feedback on how I can improve reviews in the future. Let me know. Hey, thanks for watching, and until next time, have a great day.